Welcome to a special broadcast, one where we don't just read headlines, but strip the truth down to the bone with the people actually fighting in the legislative trenches and courtrooms. Today, I have the honor of speaking with Congressman Richie Torres of New York, one of the strongest voices in Congress working to stop the rot spreading through the government. We are witnessing events that, if they were happening in any other country, we would call a collapse of the rule of law. But here, they are being normalized as the new normal. Let's begin with a specific number, a number that says everything about the brazen corruption unfolding right before our eyes. Just hours before the Trump administration carried out what it called a special law enforcement action against Maduro, or more plainly, a takeover of Venezuelan oil, someone placed a $40,000 bet on that exact outcome and walked away with $400,000. Pause and think about that. A $400,000 profit from a high-risk bet placed immediately before the event occurred. In the financial world, we call that insider trading. But this isn't the stock market. This is the political prediction market. And the information being used wasn't a company's earnings report. It was national security secrets. Someone knew in advance about a U.S. military plan and used that knowledge to make money. This was not a coincidence. This was systemic corruption. And instead of simply wringing his hands and asking how this could happen, Congressman Torres is taking action. He has just introduced 2 new bills aimed at sealing this deadly loophole. The first, the Public Integrity in Financial Prediction Markets Act, directly targets the use of insider government information by public officials to profit on betting platforms. You need to understand that prediction markets are no longer a niche sideshow. They have exploded from a few $100 million into a $4 billion industry in just the past year. Why this explosive growth? Because people are betting on the volatility of Donald Trump. They're wagering on whether he'll shut down the government, whether he'll issue an executive order. And now Donald Trump himself wants in on the game. In October, he announced a partnership with Crypto.com to launch his own prediction market on Truth Social. Imagine a president who can bet on his own decisions. He could wager that he'll issue an executive order tomorrow, then actually issue it and cash in. That's no longer prediction. That's market manipulation and abuse of power at the highest level. It turns the White House into a casino where the House always wins, and the House is the President of the United States. Congressman Torres calls this governing for profit, and he's right. This isn't a flaw in the system. It's a feature of this presidency. Torres's legislation would impose a total ban on insider trading in prediction markets for all federal officials, including the president. This is common sense. If an athlete like Floyd Mayweather isn't allowed to bet on which round he'll knock out his opponent because he controls the outcome, then why should the President of the United States be allowed to bet on the policies he himself enacts? But financial corruption is only half the story. The other half is far more brutal because it involves blood and human freedom. Congressman Torres said something that sent a chill down my spine. He said he didn't realize when he crossed the line from living in an American republic to living in an American empire. We are witnessing the birth of new titles, new viceroys, figures like Marco Rubio, who are ready to take over another country not in the name of democracy, but in the name of resources. Donald Trump is a living paradox. He is the most dishonest man imaginable, yet also brutally honest about his true motives. He doesn't pretend to care about human rights or free elections in Venezuela. He says it outright, this is about oil. This is imperialism in its purest form, the Monroe Doctrine on steroids. Don't let them fool you with the excuse of a war on drugs. If Donald Trump truly cared about stopping drug trafficking, why did he pardon the former president of Honduras, a man convicted of drug trafficking? The answer is simple. The president of Honduras was his ally, while Maduro is sitting on vast reserves of oil that Trump wants to seize for major oil corporations. And while this administration is busy building an empire abroad, it is transforming our homeland into a true police state. Look at this grotesque split screen. On one side, the Trump administration is lamenting the rights of protesters in Iran, claiming we must intervene to protect them from government brutality. On the other side, right here in Minnesota, They are deploying thousands of ICE agents into the streets to suppress American citizens themselves. This is not a peacekeeping force. This is a rogue police force that refuses to identify itself. The death of Renee Good at the hands of an ICE agent is bloody proof that this brutality is not theoretical. When an officer is allowed to conceal his identity and hide his badge, he feels empowered to abuse force, to brutalize ordinary people. That is why Congressman Torres is pushing the QR Act, the Quick Recognition Act. Listen carefully to this solution because it applies 2024 technology to stop abuse of power, requiring ICE agents and Border Patrol officers to wear QR codes on their uniforms. These codes can be scanned from a distance to reveal their name, badge number, and agency without any dangerous physical contact. This is the bare minimum of transparency that a democracy must have. Yet in the eyes of the current administration, citizens monitoring the police is treated as a threat. We are witnessing the criminalization of civil disobedience, a long-standing American tradition, and its replacement by a state that is willing to use violence against its own citizens while pretending to lecture the rest of the world about morality. But this rot doesn't stop at militarization or the abuse of police power. It is also a massive transfer of wealth from your pocket into the pockets of those in power. And I need you to look closely at this number because it is irrefutable evidence of the brutal inequality we are being forced to endure. While the economy is crushing the hopes and dreams of working Americans, while you are struggling every day with soaring prices, Donald Trump's net worth has doubled in just 1 year, reaching $6.2 billion. Let that number sink in, $6.2 billion. He didn't create a new product. He didn't invent a breakthrough technology. He simply sat in the White House and converted public power into private profit. This is what the law calls theft of honest services. They are not serving you. They are not serving the country. They are serving the Trump organization and the Trump family. And what's most frightening is that this model of governing for profit is not confined to Washington. It is spreading like a virus down to local governments, turning once elected officials into pathetic imitators. Look at what's happening in New York with Mayor Eric Adams, a man many thought was politically finished, now resurfacing with a new scheme so outrageous it should offend anyone with a conscience. Eric Adams has just announced the launch of a new memecoin cryptocurrency called New York City Coin, claiming it is meant to combat anti-Semitism. I want you to stop for a moment and ask yourself, what the hell does cryptocurrency have to do with fighting religious hatred? The answer is nothing, absolutely nothing. It's a blatant smokescreen. Online reports have exposed its true nature, a massive liquidity extraction of roughly $3 billion. In finance, we call this a pump and dump scheme, a classic scam where insiders hype an asset, drive the price up, then dump it for profit, leaving ordinary investors to drown. It is shameful, truly scandalous, to see a former mayor engaging in such shady behavior. But what's even more disturbing is that he is simply following the president's playbook. Donald Trump has launched his own digital coins. He has participated in pump and dump schemes as well. The only difference is that Trump doesn't bother pretending he's doing it for some lofty moral cause like fighting anti-Semitism. Eric Adams has taken hypocrisy to a new level, exploiting fear and social division for personal gain, like a grotesque knockoff version of George Soros. And under the current regime, with a hollowed-out Department of Justice and a toothless Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC), we cannot expect any real investigation. Career prosecutors who wanted to pursue charges against Adams have been pushed aside, replaced by the system's complicit silence. But what worries me most isn't the small-time crypto scams of a washed-up mayor. It's the way the entire federal decision-making apparatus is being transformed, literally, into a massive casino. You need to understand the scale of this problem. The industry built around betting on political events has exploded from a modest few $100 million into a $4 billion behemoth in the 2024 election cycle alone. Why this sudden surge? Not because Americans suddenly developed a love for gambling. It's because they're betting on the chaos of Donald Trump. They're wagering on his volatility, on his unpredictable behavior. And now the problem is no longer just outsiders betting on the president. It's the president himself, along with his inner circle, trying to get into the game. Donald Trump has announced on Truth Social a partnership with Crypto.com to create his own prediction market. Let me translate this into plain language so you grasp how insane this really is. Imagine boxing legend Floyd Mayweather walking into a Las Vegas casino. He wants to bet on himself. The Nevada Gaming Commission would say, "Fine, you can bet that you'll win, but you are absolutely not allowed to bet on which round you'll knock out your opponent." Why? Because at that point, it's no longer a sport. It's a staged performance. He controls the outcome. He could deliberately drag the fight out or end it early to cash in. That is exactly what's happening in the White House. If one of Trump's aides knows that tomorrow the president will sign a controversial executive order and he goes online and places a bet on that outcome before it's announced, that is insider trading. That is corruption. And that's why Congressman Torres says the word prediction here is a sleight of hand. When you are the decision maker, you are not predicting anything. You are fixing the outcome. We are living in a reality where the incentive for public officials is no longer to serve you, but to generate market volatility they can personally profit from. If shutting down the government helps them win $1 million bet, they will shut down the government regardless of whether you get paid or not. This is a total collapse of public service ethics. And who is supposed to stop this? The Securities and Exchange Commission? The Department of Justice? No. Those institutions have been neutralized or turned into political tools. The only hope left, the final line of defense against this madness becoming permanent, lies in your vote in the upcoming midterm elections. And that brings us to the final line of defense, the one place where Donald Trump's power and his corruption machine have not yet been able to fully reach. Your vote. Congressman Richie Torres put it perfectly when he said, Donald Trump's authoritarianism is as much the product of congressional surrender as it is of Trump's own nature. If we have a Congress that only nods along, a Congress ruled by fear, then we don't have a democracy. We have a monarchy in disguise. But here's the good news. All 435 seats in the House of Representatives will be up for election on November 3rd. This is not a normal election. This is a referendum on whether we are willing to accept living in an American empire where a president can seize foreign resources while suppressing citizens at home. We need people like Richie Torres, people willing to draft laws banning officials from gambling on public policy, to remain in Congress. And we need to remove those who are turning the legislative branch into a personal profit engine. Before we end this special report, I want you to lock in 3 key takeaways because they are undeniable proof of how deeply broken the system has become. 1. The government is being turned into a casino. A $400,000 profit from a Venezuela-related bet placed just before the operation is the clearest sign yet of high-level insider trading. If we fail to pass the Public Integrity Act proposed by Congressman Torres, officials will continue to make policy not to help you, but to win bets. 2. Foreign policy has become a tool of plunder. The seizure of Venezuelan oil has not delivered democracy to its people. It has delivered profits to politically connected oil corporations. We have shifted from being the global police to the global robber. 3. The war on the American people has begun. The death of Renee Good and the brutality of anonymous ICE forces in Minnesota are a bloody warning. When police are allowed to hide their faces and operate like an occupying army, civil liberties are dead. Don't let media distractions fool you. Don't let Eric Adams' crypto scams or social media conspiracy theories distract you from the reality that your tax dollars are being stolen and your rights are being trampled. Stay focused. Watch closely what Congressman Torres and others fighting for the truth do in the days ahead. And most importantly, be ready for November 3rd. That is the day we either take our country back or lose it forever. If you found the information in this report valuable, share it. Truth only has power when it spreads. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next critical updates. I'm Alex Cartier, and I'll continue to be here exposing what they want to keep hidden. Thank you for watching.